So folks, when we're talking about giving advice, there's basically two routes that people go down. So the first thing, before we even talk about that, is you have to know what the individual is going through. You have to know that it exists, right? You have to know what it is. Because if you don't know what it is, how can you provide the appropriate response? I'll picture this. Your buddy is walking to school on a regular day, falls into a hole. He falls into a pit of some sorts. First thing that you can do is be aware that this pit exists, that your friend isn't making this up, but that it's something real. Okay? So, you know this pit is real, this ditch is real. Then you can offer him two things. Number one, if you've fallen into the pit before yourself, you can go to him with empathy and say, hey, listen, I know that you fell into that pit. Actually, I fell into that pit last week. This is what I did to get out. You might be able to do the same thing and get out yourself. Option number two, let's say you've never fallen into that pit before, thus you can't relate to him. And another thing that you can do is, if you have knowledge about the pit, right? So we know that it exists, but if you do a little bit more than that, you've observed it, you watch other people. Most importantly, you've watched at least other people falling into the pit and watching them get out on their own. You can use that as a huge, huge benefit, right? Because what happens is, even though you haven't been in that scenario, you as a third party have seen it played out. And you can go to that person and go, hey, you know what? I've never had to deal with what you're dealing with, but I have done some looking into the topic, and I've seen a few different ways that people have gotten out. One person's used a ladder, another one has used their upper body, another one did this, right? Now what I want you to do is I want you to take that hole, I want you to take that ditch in the ground, whatever it may be, and come to realize that obviously, guys, we're not talking about a real hole. We're not talking about a ditch. This is symbolic, right? We're talking about depression, we're talking about anxiety, we're talking about any specific problem, any specific amount of stress, where basically those are the most common responses. Right? Where someone's dealing with a problem, right? Whether it be a physical one or just one of someone's just not in a good place right now. And if you can empathize with them because you know what it's like because you've been there, fantastic. Relate to them. Make them feel like they're not alone. If you can't, but you have your 2 cents on the matter, you've seen other people do it, you've seen a couple of YouTube videos, at least you can direct them down that path, right? At least you can say, you know what, maybe I don't have the answer you're looking for, but this guy does. Maybe you can ask him. I'm a huge, huge believer in, if anybody comes to you for advice, if anybody comes to you for help, you can do one out of two things almost every single time. Almost every single time. I don't say all the time because, nothing's guaranteed in life. Things happen. Ready? Someone comes up to you and they're looking for answers. Now, a lot of the time, I do believe that the individual has the answer to their own problem. They just need some guidance. They need some clearance. Right? It's foggy. They just need you to help organize a few things around. If you can either do two things for them. Number one, you help them organize their thoughts. You help them reach a logical conclusion, and you help them find an answer to their problem. Or number two, if you cannot help them find their answer, the least that you could do is direct them to someone who can. I hate seeing this so much. You see someone go up to another person and say, hey man, I'm working on this right now, this project, I'm struggling with this right now. Do you have any advice? Do you have any tips? And they go, nah, sorry man. And that doesn't seem hard initially, but it's so easy to go, you know what? To be honest with you, man, I do not know. However, I do know someone who might be able to help you. Or, hey, you know what, man? I don't know. I don't even have a friend who might be able to help you, but, I'm sure, you could probably Google someone in the area, YouTube videos, things like that. Don't just leave them in the air. Don't leave them floating, right? You want to give something of value to them. And if I can't give you the answer, geez, man, the least I can do is direct you to someone who can, right? You're asking me about a topic that I have absolutely no idea about. I have no clue. The least I could do is go, hey man, I have no knowledge on this area. I would highly recommend you take your question to Dr. So-and-so, or to my buddy who's doing this, or to my friend who knows what she's talking about in this area. Right? Even if you direct them to the person, right? They walk over to the person and they can't help them out. simply this idea that you didn't leave them in the air, right? But that they felt like you looked over them, right? That you watched over them. That even though you couldn't do anything for them, you still, metaphorically held their hand and took them towards someone who could. That has a huge impact on individuals in terms of building relationships, building trust, building character, the way that they see you, right? Because they're not going to think, their immediate thought won't be like, Daniel didn't help me with my problem. Their thought's going to be like, you know what? Daniel extended his hand. That's what counts. Daniel extended his hand, and he was going to help me. Now, regardless of, if it worked, if it didn't work, right, he was maybe a guy that I can count on. That's a guy I want to have in my corner. So what do you think happens when this person goes out and they're going out to a party or they're going out with their friends, they're thinking about what people to invite? Is it more likely that you're going to get invited now? You bet it is.